Okay, welcome to this video where we're going to have a look at all the formulas that you need to get a pass in your GCSE maths exam. Now before we get started, these are going to be the crossover formulas. So these are the formulas that you need that appear in both the foundation and the higher paper. If you want to look specifically just at the higher topics and just the formulas that you need in the higher tier paper, then do make sure you check out the next video in the series. But even if you are doing the higher tier paper, you are going to still need to know all these formulas. So I'm the GCSE maths tutor. Let's have a look at all of these. So the first one that we're going to have a look at here is going to be the area of a rectangle. So the area of a rectangle is length times width. Now when you have a question like this, and for all of these questions they're going to be relatively simple examples, but if we have a rectangle and we have the lengths 3 and 8, they are the length and the width, so we would just do 3 times 8. And that would give us an answer of 24, and not forgetting our units there, centimetre squared. Okay, on to our next formula. So we'll now have a look at the area of a triangle. The area of a triangle is half base times height. And when these formulas are written, they don't tend to be written with the multiplication symbols, but I'm going to keep them in there for the purpose of this video. So if we look at a basic example, if we have a triangle and we're given the lengths, when it comes to using this particular formula, we do need to know the perpendicular height. So if we have the perpendicular height, we can use this formula, and we just need to make sure we identify the correct lengths. So the base here would be 10 and the perpendicular height would be 7, so we would do half times 10 times 7, and that gives us an area of 35 centimetres squared. What you can do is you can just halve the base number, so that would be half of 10, which is 5, and then multiply it by the height, which again gives you 35. Okay, so on to our next one, we'll look at the area of a trapezium. Now the area of a trapezium is half times a plus b times by the height. Now a plus b, the a and the b when it comes to a trapezium, are the two parallel lengths. And in this particular trapezium, that's the top and the bottom, and they would normally be labels a and b. So for this one here, we need to actually add a and b together, and we also need to know again the perpendicular height. So if we add in the perpendicular height, and we'll say that that is 5, for this one here we would do a half times a plus b, which is 8 plus 10, and then multiply it by the height, which is 5. We can simplify that a little bit further because we can add the 8 and the 10, and that would give us 18. So if we did a half times 18 times 5, that would give us 45 centimetres squared. And you can take a similar approach to that we did with the triangle. You could halve the 18 to get 9, and then multiply it by 5. So there's the area of a trapezium. Let's have a look at our next one, which is going to be the area of a parallelogram. So for the area of a parallelogram, this is quite a nice one, very similar to that of a rectangle. It is base times height. So when we're looking at a parallelogram, we obviously need a base and a height, and again we need to remember that the height there is the perpendicular height, so we'll have to add that in if we can actually work out the area of the parallelogram. So for this one here, the base is the same as the top, so we could move the top down to the base, and again now we would just need to do 8 times 5, which would give us an area of 40 centimetres squared. Okay, on to our next one. We're going to have a look at the area of a circle. So the area of a circle gets slightly more complicated as we start to introduce pi. So you need to know how to find pi on your calculator, but the formula is going to be pi r squared, or that can be written as pi times the radius squared. Again, they mean the same thing, but just introducing that multiplication symbol. So again, if we take a circle, we do need to know some of the parts of the circle. We need to know that the length all the way across is called the diameter, and we also need to know that half of that distance is called the radius. And for finding the area, we're going to be using the radius. So for one of these questions, you might be given the diameter and have to halve it to find the radius, but for the purpose of this example, we're just going to put in a radius of 4. So if you were to type this into your calculator, you would type in pi times 4 squared, and that particular multiplication here gives us quite a long decimal. So you need to read the question carefully, but for the purpose of all of these examples, we're just going to round the answer to 1 decimal place. Again, making sure in an exam though, you actually write down all of the numbers unless you are specifically asked to round it. But let's imagine we were asked to round to 1 decimal place. We would round that and say 50.3 centimetres squared. Now sticking with the theme of circles, let's have a look at the circumference of a circle. So for the circumference of a circle, we have another formula, and that is pi times the diameter. Or you could also say pi times 2 of the radiuses, or pi times 2r. So if we look at a circle, first of all we need to know that the circumference is that distance all the way around the outside. And in order to find that, we just need to plug our values into our formula. So for this particular one, we're going to be using the diameter, but again, you might be having to use the radius and doubling it to get the diameter. So let's say that the diameter is 6 centimeters, and then plug that into our formula, which is pi times 6. Again, this gives us quite a long decimal, so if we have to round it, again, I'm going to round this to 1 decimal place, but just making sure that you read the question and round it as you have been asked to. So for this one here, that would be 18.8, and in this case it's centimeters, as we are not looking at an area this time. Right, we're going to move on to some volume. So for the volume of any prism, the formula is to work out the area of the cross-section and then multiply it by the length. So for this particular example, we're going to have a look at a triangular prism. Now we know if we are looking at the cross-section, we are looking at the face which runs all the way through it. And in this case, this is a triangle. And we've already looked at how to work out the area of a triangle, so we'll have a look at that in a second. The length is the distance that it goes through the shape. So in this case, it would be that length shown for you. So if we add in some lengths, we can actually go about working out the cross-section. For this particular one, we are going to need to know the perpendicular height of the triangle, as we discussed earlier, so let's add in a perpendicular height of 4. Again, potentially you could have to use some other mathematics to work that out, but for keeping simplicity for these examples, we'll just chuck that length in. So for this one, for the area of the cross-section, we would do a half times base times height for the triangle, and that would be a half times 6 times the perpendicular height of 4, which would give us an area of 12 centimeters squared. We then take that area and multiply it by the length. The length here is 10, so we would just do 12 times 10, which would give us 120, and this time the units are centimetre cubed, as we are looking at a volume. Okay, let's have a look at another volume, and that is the volume of a cylinder. So the volume of a cylinder is worked out in exactly the same way as what we actually have as a circular faced prism. But in order to work out the circular face, we need to do pi r squared. So our formula here is pi r squared multiplied by the height. So if we have a look at our cylinder and think about the fact that we do have these circular faces, we obviously need to know a few elements in regards to the cylinder. We need to know the radius of the circle. So let's put in a radius of 3 and let's put in a height of 8. So in order to work out this volume, first we would have to do pi r squared, so pi times 3 squared would give us this long decimal. So again, as we are now going to work out the volume, you definitely do not want to round your working out. So we'll take that decimal there in our calculator and just multiply it straight by the height, which is 8. So I would press times 8 and we would get, and again we get another long decimal here. Again, just reading the question and making sure you round that as you have been asked. But if we stick to the rest of our rounding that we've done in this video, we'll round it to 1 decimal place and we'll get an answer of 226.2 centimetre cubed. Okay, moving on to our next formula, we're going to have a look at Pythagoras Theorem. Now Pythagoras Theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And this applies when we're looking at certain types of triangles. It specifically applies when we're looking at a right-angled triangle. So we will have to have a right angle in our triangle in order to use this, but our lengths here would be A and B. Now the A and the B are interchangeable, so the A could be B and the B could be A in this example, but I've just decided to label it that way. Now the hypotenuse, which is the longest length, is what we call C in our formula. So these are the lengths that we're going to be looking at when using Pythagoras Theorem. Now if we replace those with some numbers, let's say that we have 3 and 4 and we're looking for the hypotenuse. So A and B would be 3 and 4, so we put those into our formula and we would have that 3 squared plus 4 squared is equal to that C squared. If we simplify 3 squared plus 4 squared, we get the answer 25. So 25 is equal to C squared, and if we want to know what C is, we would have to square root 25, which would give us the answer 5. Remembering that when you square root a number like 25, you do actually get two answers, plus and minus 5, but obviously we're looking at a length here, and a length cannot be negative, so the answer must be 5. When you are looking at Pythagoras, you could also be looking for one of the shorter lengths, in which case you actually have to do a subtraction. Maybe it's c squared take away a squared, which will equal b squared, but you need to know this formula and then looking at rearranging it if needed. Now moving on from Pythagoras, we can also look at right-angled triangles when it comes to our trigonometric ratios. And again, this is for right-angled triangles, but this is when we have an angle involved. So if we put an angle into this triangle, and let's call that angle 30 degrees for the purpose of this example, then we need to know how to label the sides. So the side that is opposite the angle, if you were to draw an arrow out of it, is called the opposite side. The next side, which we already know from Pythagoras, is the hypotenuse, which is the longest length, which is always opposite the right angle. But don't get that confused with the opposite side, as we are looking at the angle that's not to the right angle. We also then have the final side, which is called the adjacent side. So these are the three lengths that you need to know when using any trigonometric ratios. Now there are three formula triangles that are very helpful for this, and that is shown on the screen. So we have that sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, cos is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan is equal to opposite over adjacent. Now if we focus on just using one of these for our example, we'll look at using our sine triangle. So if we get rid of these labels and we actually put in some numbers, let's say that this side is 5 and we're looking for the hypotenuse. Now in this case we are given the opposite, which is 5, and we're looking for the hypotenuse, and O and H are in our sine triangle. So if you cover up the hypotenuse, which we're looking for, it tells you it's O over S. So the hypotenuse is O divided by S, and in this case that would be 5 divided by sine 30. So if you type that into your calculator, you actually get quite a nice number for this one. You get the answer 10. Normally you're going to get decimals here, but there is something else involved, and that is that the value of sine 30 actually has an exact value of 1/2. And this is just one of the trigonometric exact values that you do need to remember. And again, don't forget, I'm going to link any videos to all of these in the description if you need to have a look at these a little bit further. So let's get rid of that, and let's maybe have a think about just a slightly different example. So instead of using the sine, let's use the cos triangle. And let's instead put some different numbers in. We'll say that the hypotenuse is 8, and this time we'll look for the adjacent side. Now the adjacent, if you cover it up in your triangle, is c times h. So a would be equal to cos with the angle of 30 multiplied by 8. And again, if you type that into your calculator, this time you do get a decimal. And again, if we rounded that to one decimal place, we would have 6.9 centimeters. So there is a few examples, but also you need to know how to work out an angle and how to use the inverse of these if, again, you are looking for the angle rather than the lengths. So again, don't forget to check out the video if you're not sure on how to do some of those. So moving on to some of our final formulas, we're going to have a look at our density formula, and density is equal to mass divided by volume. Again, you can put this into a formula triangle, and we can have a look at an example question. So it's a nice simple one, but if we look at the mass of a solid being 200 grams and the volume of the solid being 40 centimeter cubed, if we were to calculate the density, we would just plug that into our formula. Mass divided by volume would be 200 divided by 40. And that comes out as an answer of 5. We just need to get the units correct here, and you can pinch the units from the question. We had grams and centimetre cubed, so the units would be grams per centimetre cubed. So that's for density. Let's move on to speed, and speed is going to be equal to distance divided by time. Again, that can go into a formula triangle, and you can use that as you see fit. But we'll have a look at an example. So for this one, we'll say a car travels 448 miles and it takes the car 8 hours. Calculate the average speed. So again, plugging this in, we would do 448 miles divided by 8. And when we work that out, it gives us an answer of 56. And when it comes to speed, again, we were looking at miles and hours, so we would give that speed as being miles per hour. And there we go. Again, you could obviously rearrange that with your triangle for working out this distance or time. So on to our final one, we'll have a look at pressure. And pressure is equal to force divided by area. So again, this can go into a formula triangle, and let's have a look at a final example. So it says here that a solid exerts a force of 3,500 newtons on the floor. The area of the solid in contact with the floor is 5 meters squared. Calculate the pressure exerted by the solid on the floor. So for this question here, again, we would plug in the values. 3,500 divided by 5, that equals 700. And for this particular question, we were using newtons and meter squared. So we would use a unit of newtons per meter squared. So there we go, that's all the formulas. Just to obviously make you aware again, these are the formulas that you need whether you are doing higher or foundation. If you are doing the higher exam, there are more formulas that you need, and I will put the next video here in the description so that you can have a look at the higher only formulas as well. I hope you found that video useful and helpful. If you did, please don't forget to like this video, please don't forget to share it, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel. But until the next video, I will see you later.